Wow, a lot of audiences. Thank you so much for inviting me first. Because after COVID, my first overseas trip was last year's Frankfurt Book Fair, and I met Jose again. And it was kind of breaking a long silence, and he suggested me, would you actually do me a favor, and we may actually have some, Korea as a focus country for this Readmagine, and I was very happy to be invited. So I'm here to talk about what's happening in Korea from more publishing industry point of view towards to the more web contents. And so we're going to focus for the first part is more our traditional publishing industry with the more digital transformations and gradually going over more web content market. That's a web novel or Webtoons that we call in our market. So let's go over. Yes, I found it. Thank you so much. Okay. So let me just introduce very briefly about my company. As I'm co-founder and a managing director of Co.Mint, and we have a catchphrase, as you can see, we connect the people via content in and out of Korea. So we do a lot of some professional consulting services for the foreign content groups or service platforms, including J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter book series into Korea market, also Storytel, their Korea entities established in 2019. And that this year, maybe later of this year, we will announce our new content service platform, Mama, and we hope to present it again in the Frankfurt Book Fair this year. So this is a market landscape in general, what's Korea's publishing market. So you can see there is some up and downs throughout from 2010 to 2020. And then there is a kind of always kind of gradual shrink in print market. And actually, this graph doesn't actually show very specifically how much of the percentages is going down in a print market, but every year, 5 or 4% is been shrinking. So the traditional publishers always get concerned what will be really help them to just back any drops or decrease from their tradition publishing markets, and that digital ebooks and audiobooks could be the always alternative, but still it is quite standstill. So I'm going to show you a little bit later. And but Korea, it's a maybe you've heard about some tiger mom from Korea. So educational passion and kind of our kind of passion towards to the education is very high. So Korea's educational market from the perspective of the publishers is still quite growing. So digitally and also print. And as you can see that still we have a new books published, but it's a 6% decreased from the previous year. And actually it's really just kept descending every years now. From the survey, it's quite interesting because 2021, almost 20% of respondents say they've read ebooks, and these numbers is gradually growing every year when we do the survey. And the conduct in 2020, last year, 80% of the respondents say they consume their news online, and in most cases, it's social media. Let's deep inside more ebooks and audiobooks. So on the right side, from your view, is audio, and the left is ebooks. So we started ebook market burgeoning around 20 or 25 years ago. So there was quite early days for Korea. We have a big consortium of ebook players, ebook readers, producers, and also productions companies and content makers. But at the time, there was one of a very good starting, but the problem was 20 years ago was we didn't have a very transparent reporting system at the time. So the publishers and authors, they realized at the end that their sales has not reported properly. So there is one of a big kind of very big distrust to happen, and we actually have a kind of a very break years or silent years of kind of developing the digital something or digital content in Korea. And then around 2008, we have a new chances coming up to increase more digital content consumed digitally. And that was Korea's, we say, web novel. So I'm going to actually tell you more about the web novel. But in more Western countries, you are actually just talking more web literature, or in China, they say it's an internet literature. So that was more for amateur authors or writers to become an author properly. And in the time of 2008 or 9, Korea's also IT-driven companies who selling the ebooks has become very heavily funded because there's a technology coming up. And Korea, at the time, it was kind of 3G, 4G, LTE is really introduced very fastly. So everything that about the content, it's been fastly consumed, and ebook was one of a very kind of a hot area people talk about. So from the time, we gradually actually have some growth, but interestingly, we didn't have kind of big, gigantic scale up in ebook market yet. And I see the reason is because Koreans do not read books that much more than the other countries. And because we have some good survey in Korea, every 2 years, our country do the survey for the towards to the numbers of the Koreans, sample numbers of Koreans, and we always found that there was a decreasing numbers of annual reading numbers from the adult. So adults do not read more than 10 books a year physically. So that means is we are actually in a very high crisis of the reading index. And then ebooks, I think that is why we do not have big kind of pool from the print to digital that people shift towards to the ebooks. But still, we have a very good growth number, kind of a 30% annual growth rate, because the Gen Z, they actually just driving more coming revenue generating platforms. So that's why we actually have a very good prospect for the ebooks, but still very slow steps. And the audiobook, it's been actually started very massively from 2019. And in 2017, we can actually show up later why it's been just burgeoning from very suddenly in 2017. And the market is now actually expected around 75% annual growth rate from the first COVID and the second COVID year. But still it's growing, but the growth rate from the first 2 years of COVID compared to right now, it's still a little bit dropped, but still it's growing, so people are still expecting. And also they think about what is the reason the market has been so slowly actually growing in Korea. And as a kind of trend word from South Korea's digital reading culture is a subscription economy. After COVID, we actually still have a very settled culture, use this the subscription economy. And this audiobook is one of the very the beneficiary, I would say. This subscription economy helped the people very easily go in from the listening behavior, entertaining industry, that's a podcast or radio, into this audiobook industry. And then Korea's, as you can see, there is a kind of in the bottom, you can see some small application logos, and that is Korea's representative online bookshops. The first one is Ready, second is Millie, third one is Yes24. So those three are Korea's digital online store, and the fourth one, Willa, that is the only audiobook service platform. So those 4 platforms, they support the subscription model unlimited, and they have a book clubs to promote the people's engaged together with the books or audiobooks. And then during the COVID and up until so far, so their numbers or churn rate from the subscription models, it's still very low, and they actually keep the people just very engaged with the subscription model. And as I just mentioned, the audiobook, it's been just burgeoning from 2017 in Korea because of the Naver's big fund. So this fund was heavily invested from some investment company outside of Naver, and it's supporting publishers to produce audiobooks that's unabridged audiobooks. So publishers, they publish audiobook and then deliver to Naver audiobook clip, that's a service name, and then the Naver as a kind of a portal, like a search engine portal. So they have so many numbers of the Koreans who do everyday use a Naver portal. So they actually want to test with audio and a podcast content at the time. So they need a more pool of the contents from the audio sector. So that's why they support this fund. And then they maintained around 3 years from 2017. And they decided not to maintain the fund anymore. But at a time around, they decided to stop. The Korea government, the KPIPA, they set up the new government funding programs for the publishers. And I think from like 2019 or late 2018 and up to so far, every year they support to produce 300 or 400 level of unabridged audiobooks in Korea. So publishers are always just eager to just apply for, and then they once they selected, then the studios and the publishers and the narrators, they actually co-work together, and they have a very good quality audiobooks. So that's how the Korea's audiobooks is now just by step, increasing the number of content, and also by the technology, there's applications supporting this audiobook on unlimited subscription model. So as you can see, the Millie, Willa, Storytel, and the Naver Audio Clip. Naver Audio Clip, around last year, they pivoted their business model from audiobook to more music service. So they actually do not focus on Naver Clip anymore, but they have more like a music service embracing audio content inside. And there was an audio drama, like a fiction podcast, that's a Korean version, and a very nice audio ASMR sounds, and all the traded book, transformed audiobooks in there. And as you can see, the market growing, it's a turnover is actually expected around the $30 million level last year, and I think we've already reached it, and we are trying to getting like a double up as the market expected. And Gen Z, yeah, that's for sure is a driving force, and they are always just wearing their big headsets in Korea. And they think that AirPod or Samsung Buds or the Sony headsets is one of a very hip item for them. So they always keep listening something, like yesterday at the Gen Z trends shows. So they naturally going into more audio applications very naturally. And teens, so most of the audiobook listeners from Willa, and the 3 dose of the applications are from 20 to 40s. So the teenagers or the senior level over the 50 years, they are a little bit isolated from our view. But since Storytel have a lot of audiobooks, and Korea moms always just keep their kids learning English from listening something. So the teens or under teens, like kids, they are gradually going over into the Korea's audiobook app once they have a more acquisition of English audiobooks. And then the senior levels, I actually talked with Michelle Cobb yesterday, because in Korea, we actually have senior levels that really want to listen more audiobooks because they're kind of eye-fatigue and very farsighted, so they want to listen something. But mobile application is something they always feel struggle to how to use it, how to access, how to collect. So their kids, that's like a 40s or 30 like me, we helped our parents to just help use the audiobook app. So there are some growing numbers, and the numbers of contents of audios is now just keep fitting in. So that's how we are actually having more prospective views on audiobook. So you can see that it's a TV commercial. So from the Willa and the Millie and the Storytel, it's been all executed last year or the year before. And then this TV commercials was really huge, big phenomena in Korea at the time. So Storytel was a very last step in. So these 2 Korean local domestic players, they actually working with a Korean very well-known celebrity, and you can see that the Pachinko's author, she always on TV shows together. So they had a great new user adoption from these TV commercials at the time. So let's go into a little bit more web contents right now. So as I mentioned you, maybe around the 2008 or 9, that is time that Koreans have a kind of burgeoning era of a web novel. So but this chart shows is much later, like a 2015 up so far, 2019. But you can see that only the red line is web fiction or web novel. It's only just growing. And then the year-to-year growth rate is always just over 70%. And then you can see that the revenue, domestic web novel revenues market size, 600 billion Korean won is around 600 million US dollar level. So it's a keep growing, and we always just keep kind of hit the high ceiling, and it just goes stand still in the web novel industry. And you can see on the right panel is that how much of the content is being consumed per each platform. You can see Kakao Page and a Naver series. Those two are the Korea's gigantic and a major one. But other than that, the three on the bottom, the Mumpia or Joara, reading books. So Mumpia, Joara, they are the starter of the Korea Webtoon or web novel industry. So since we have a Joara and Mumpia, the Joara is more for women, and the Mumpia more for men's. So Joara started more men's fantasy, men's action, martial web novels, and the Joara comes from the more women's romance. And then they actually keep starting to show that it's a working model. So that's how Kakao Page and Naver, they full-fledged it in their services. Let's go a little bit faster. So Webtoon. So Korea Webtoon comes a little bit later from web novel. So when you see that Korea Webtoons is becoming one of a global phenomena these days, but we see around maybe 2010, after like an Asian financial crisis, the writers actually, they want to actually have somewhere they want to upload and show their arts. And then Naver, the CEO Kim Jin-gu, so he was one big fan of the Korean manhwa or manga. So he actually set up a platform and let everybody actually come upload your contents freely, and let audiences can judge your contents. So that was the start of the Korea Webtoons. So Korea Webtoons, that's a kind of birthplace, but now it's kind of a more global terms we can say. So global Webtoon market evaluated quite huge, like a $3 billion last year, and it's going to be really growing with a 36 point of the CAGR. And you can see the right one is a Korea market graph. So we are still also expecting a very high growth because of the export of Korean Webtoon contents to the global, as well as our content market in Korea itself is also one of a very hot market to keep consuming the Webtoons. This is a Korea Webtoon market landscape. So you can see every year, the total numbers of the new Webtoons is quite growing to release in the market. And the kind of the black bar shows the exclusive titles. Exclusive titles, maybe you've already known. In each platforms, they want to have very exclusive original contents. So most of contents are 5 years exclusivity terms. Once the Webtoon studios, they want to apply for some judgment or evaluation process to each of the platforms. So the numbers is quite growing. That means they got exclusivity and benefited for the promotion, and also have many good chances to be promoted to the TV film adaptations or the other secondary format rights. And right panel that shows the kind of demographic of Korea's Webtoon consumption. So you can see it's not only for teens, because the teens or teens to the 20s, men's a little bit somewhere else is, but also women's are more over-consumed. But 20 to almost 30s, they actually, from men's part, they have a majority of the consumptions. And I believe this demographic is quite universal to the other countries. Maybe from the beginning, maybe it should be started from more teenagers, but actually it becomes more expanded towards to the 30s and 40s. And in Korea, we actually have a very interesting survey last year. So how many times do you consume Webtoon in a week? And then more than 70% congruently aggregated maybe every day or twice or 3 times a week or maybe once per week. Yeah, in combination, they are more than 70%. And then you can see the graph on the top. So that shows from 2001 to 2005, big, deep decreasing shows our manhwa publishing market is in a print market. So in Korea, print manhwa market has gone. So most of the manhwa has been backed up by Korea's webcomic Webtoon market now. So these trends actually has been actually stopped on 2005, but after 2005 but still, it is still very, very zero. But interestingly, from this survey, we shows that Webtoon readers, they've been already actually experienced, they buy the prints of the same Webtoon titles in print versions. And they shows every year it's been a bit growing, and the last year it's already reached 30%. So that is one of the really good signs for the publishers who do license from the Webtoon studios for the print rights, and they published in the prints of the same Webtoon titles. So it goes in a very virtuous cycles in Korea's publishing market. And in Korea, the government, they do always like a Hallyu research. So you know what's a Hallyu? Hallyu is Korea's wave, or maybe culture wave, I could say. It's a kind of the popularity from the Korea contents all over the world, such like a K-pop, K-drama, or K-food. And this year, the Korea government, they actually mentioned that Webtoons are the most actively consumed Korea wave content. So they say Korea wave, we have a 4th generation so far, and we have a 5th generation that should be driven by Korea Webtoon. And I think these 3 bullet points, it's been already recorded around 2021. So Naver Kakao has been now just very global phenomena, but it's been already started from Japan. So from 2021, they've been already ranked number 1 and 2 with a kind of market share more than 70% of Japanese webcomic market at the time. And Naver Webtoon has been already shows in the French market, as the previous speakers already shows. In the French market, it's been started with Korea's Webtoon penetrations. And a Solo Leveling, so that is one of the very symbolic titles, because it started what is a Korea Webtoons can be more globalization potentials embraced. So Solo Leveling still keep lasting their positions as the number 1 once they have a new books coming in. So this is kind of very snapshots at what is Hallyu fans all over the world, and how they are actually growing the numbers in each year. And I think this is a really good and very important what is the difference in a Webtoon? So for your just understanding, just in case you don't read or you don't know what is concept of Webtoon. So Webtoon, as I mentioned you, it started early 2000s. And as you can see that, yeah, so let's allow anyone to upload Webtoons. Outstanding works will flourish. So this is what the CEO of Naver at the time, he stated. And then at the time, the artist of that drawing is a voice from a heart. So that was one of my favorite Webtoon at the time when I was a university student at the time though. And it was one of the comics, and the comics really kind of really good fit to the Webtoon format at the time. It's very easy to consume and very fresh, very cute sometimes. And then many other artists or potential artists, they follow this path. And then it shows also many good success story from the artist, because artists at the time who are not properly debuted by like a traditional publisher's magazine or publisher's publishers, what can I say, like a competition, but this is a very new platforms for the independent writers can be debuted. So they actually had a good record of around 10 million US dollar annually for their revenue from their Webtoon publishing. And Korea's Webtoon, they have some very interesting, some service features. What I can say is a microtransaction payment. So each of the series, because it's a very long form content, I can say, so around 50 to 100 episode, it consists of one series. So each of the series is very short. Around 15 minutes you can consume in one episode. So each episode, they charge it a very micro payment system. So the teens are, having a very little money, so they're easy to just buy the coin system, and then they pay, and then they just keep hooking, and then they just keep paying it. So, or you can also have the wait and see model. So if you wait 3 days, the first initial service, wait 3 days, then your next episode will be free. So they wait for 3 days. And then nowadays, it's only 3 hours, because the platforms learned that the patience has gone. So users want to have a fast time, don't have to wait more than time. And then scroll the view. So you can see it on a very far right panel. It's all scrolled. So when you actually see your content from left, right, or left, right, so the directions is very different. So when you scroll, the Webtoon studios, and the artists always will focus how their direction of the illustrations really making a descent in a scrolled view. So once you actually experience your Webtoon consumption, then you will see what I'm actually talking about. So very good illustrated artist Webtoons shows wonderful continuous directions. So it should be very nice and a very beautiful kind of artwork, I could say. So this scroll view and just wait and see. This is only 3 hours, and then once you open the app, genre or search, and then just keep pushing, open all the content. So it's only 3 steps away once you actually reach to the consuming the content. So it's very quick to use. So Gen Z or the young readers is very eager to immersively fall in, and then they just only pay very micro coins, just keep their reading experience. So now it's going so global. So as I mentioned 2020, more than 70 Japanese webcomic market. It's been dominated with Naver, Line Manga, Kakao Piccoma, and HM's Comico, and the others are local domestic webcomic companies. And then I think it's also started in the US market as well. And then the genre-wise, always comedy comes first. So comedy, action, and sci-fi, those 3 are the main gigantic and the dominant genres. And the bottom line, you can show, this is kind of one of an index, because Naver is a #1, so Naver index is one thing that you may actually keep in mind. So their users from globally, it's now just growing MAU-wise, and also their users from global and Korea, you can see that their global numbers is outnumbers Korea or Japan so much more than they are actually combined. And then their average revenue from the paid user, it's already from the Japan and Korea overall. So you can see Japan, it's been really high up, every year. And once Naver, they decided to go global, what was their strategy is just make the amateur, but very cool quality amateur artists going on a board of their platform. So the right side is a US service platform. So you can see one of their representative worked Lore Olympus. So the artist actually just at the end won the Eisner Award, that's Academy for the Comics. And then right side, you can see the Kakao's Japanese Piccoma service, the solo leveling has been #1. So their strategy was a little bit different. So Kakao was more focused on just hand-picked very good best of best content from Korea to launch globally. And the neighbors actually trying to embrace the local artists with a good quality. So that's why they have this canvas system. And then later on, the Yondar, I think this year's London Book Fair, they have some presentations as well. So Yonda launched it. So Yonda is very different from Wattpad if you actually experience. Wattpad is more amateur independent authors they do with a lot of some fanfics. But Yonder is more qualified, serialized fictions. So as I mentioned you, good quality is very important. Just keep users inside and with a very low churn rate. So that's why the Yonda coming in. And for Korea government, they do a lot of subsidy to grant and helping the Webtoon studios and the producers or artists to keep their own work. So this is one part of their initiative, and between the country Mexico and Korea in 2020 or 2021 was a 60 years of celebration. So they set up a very cultural program that was actually themed with Korea's Webtoon. So from here, you can see a lot of some adaptation examples from Webtoons to drama or TV films. Maybe you've already seen some of the works from here. And some of the K-pops is also fused with the K-Webtoons as well. So the Chaco from the BTS and the Crimson Horde from the Last Seraphim, I don't know, you may know. And they are all from the Hive of BTS Entertainment. And the third one is Mave, the K-pop idol, but they are virtual idol groups. So Korea, what is now just trending from the K-pop is we set up more virtual idol groups. So virtual idol groups is a protagonist of this Webtoon, and then they actually do a lot of some franchise materials together with this Webtoon. And this is a game example. So there's been a lot of kind of very active transaction from the game to Webtoon or game, Webtoon to game. So maybe Lookism or God of a High School, and maybe a Yell Warrior, and then Tower of God. I think a Tower of God is one of the initial good example of the Webtoons to become a game at the time. And then Assassin's Creed, this is a game, and a game to become a Webtoon. So it was a kind of huge success in Korea as well. And the K-food has become a part of the Korea's Webtoon content at this time now. So government is supporting that, okay, with the theme of the K-food, yeah, they just keep supporting the studios and artists to work on with the theme of the K-food. And this is more technology side, and we see that this is a kind of a future opportunity, how the artists can work more easily, and because in Korea, there are in initial years of the burgeoning, there are many criticisms towards to the way of the platforms working with artists, because once they see that there are many flow in of new users, they really keep pushing the artists to keep uploading new episodes every day. So that's a kind of really big labor for the artists at the time. So nowadays, by the law, we should actually protect their human rights. But so the neighbor actually thinking that maybe AI can be the good part to help the artists to draw or illustrate your Webtoons much easier with the technology. So that's why they have a Webtoon AI. So Webtoon AI, last year they launched the service, and this is actually used by the artists at this time being as a more pilot program. And then the right up, you can see that there is one filter on the before and the right. So this is more for consumer applications. It's been already available in Korea and now released in the US. And you upload your photo to the app, and you can select your favorite artistic style of the Webtoon. So it should be always been agreed with artists to use their styles for this tune filter. And then the last one is, it's one of the very famous Webtoons over the world. the tale of the unusual. So this is a horror genre of the Webtoons, and they made it in a metaverse map on the Zepeto platform. So they try to just expanded their universe from the Webtoon towards to the metaverse, and it's just starting now. So this is what I actually, prepared for this presentation, chances. And thank you for your listening. And I hope to have a more discussion with you after this.